thanks for coming out. I appreciate the audience. I'm going to talk today about diamonds and other gems from the state of Arkansas. Oh, I was hitting the wrong direction. So, most of what I'm going to talk about today is this place, the Crater of Diamond State Park. As Ellen mentioned, they're still pulling a lot of diamonds out of the ground in Arkansas. The mine or the deposit has been converted into a state park, so we'll go through some of the history of this, a little bit about the geology, show some pretty pictures of diamonds, and at the end I'm going to talk a little bit about turquoise as well. So to kind of frame the discussion, I want to go over a little bit of sort of the history of global diamond production. So diamonds come from a lot of different places in the world today, Russia, Africa, Canada, you name it, there's diamonds all over the place. But if you were to go back in the day into the ancient world, 2,000 years ago, if you were a king or a queen and you had a diamond, most likely that diamond would have come from one place, and that was India. So Golconda in India was the source of virtually all diamonds in the ancient world. It was discovered about 300 B.C.E., so before Common Era. This is kind of an artistic representation of the fort at Golconda. Here's a current picture of what's going on there. So the fort, obviously there's no one really mining too many diamonds anymore, but back in the day they had this huge fort because they had lots of diamonds and they needed to protect them. This is actually kind of where the famous Kohinoor and the Hope Diamond were stored before the British came in, of course. Now, it was not until millennia later that they discovered the next major source of diamonds, and that was in Brazil. So in 1720s, in the state of Minas Gerais in Brazil, we find a lot of other gemstones as well. They found the next deposit of gemstones of diamonds. These were mostly found in alluvial settings, so they weren't really mining kimberlite pipes. If you're not familiar with the term, I'll go over what that means in a minute. But they were a major supplier of diamonds. So they were producing huge volumes, and it was really disrupting the diamond market. So it's actually kind of interesting. I work very closely with a historian at GIA. She studies global gem trade in historical terms. Her name is Sona Tajirian, but she mentioned that in some of her texts that she studies, the merchants of those times, when they discovered these diamonds, actually started creating this price difference between Brazilian and Indian diamonds. And what they were doing likely is they were probably trying to protect their Indian diamond trade. And they were devaluing the Brazilian diamonds against the Indian ones, even though the Brazilian diamonds is a new deposit, so they were producing lots of really good stones, but they were creating this kind of artificial price difference between these two different sources. But Brazil was the major supplier of global diamonds after its discovery until, of course, South Africa. So South African diamonds were a really big advancement in the global diamond supply chain. Discovered in 1866 to 1867, and it was producing, when they found it, they started producing just huge volumes of diamonds. They were mining this directly from the kimberlite pipe. So I said I would discuss what that means. A kimberlite is a volcanic eruption. It's a type of volcanic rock that's coming from deep within the earth. And it's typically the kind of volcanic deposit that is bringing diamonds up from deep within the earth as well. So the diamonds don't really belong in the kimberlites, but as the kimberlite erupted through the earth, it picked up diamonds from somewhere deep, some deep mysterious place in the earth. And what this actually helped us do is significantly improve our knowledge of diamond geology. So these other deposits, especially in Brazil, was mined mostly as alluvial deposits. They didn't really see the original host rock of the diamonds. When they got into Kimberley in South Africa, they started really understanding how diamonds were formed, and it's kind of led to a lot of our knowledge about the earth these days as well. But again, it drastically increased the volume of diamonds in the global trade. Here's a nice little chart kind of just showing this. So we have the millions of carats per year of diamonds being mined against time. You see it's pretty much a flat line. You get a little blip up when you get to Brazil, but really most of the action is happening right here. So when the South African diamonds were discovered, you had this just huge increase in not only the number of diamonds being found, but also the number of deposits. So we have this proliferation of diamond deposits happening after the discovery in South Africa. So all of a sudden when they found the diamonds in South Africa, people started thinking about other deposits in the world. They started looking around and understanding how they could find different deposits. Because again, they knew a lot about the geology from the South African mine, so they could use that knowledge to go other places in the world and looked for other deposits of diamonds. So kind of a timeline, Golconda, India was 300 BCE or earlier. There were some diamonds in the island of Borneo around 600 CE. There's a few scattered other places, like interestingly, we came to learn that Thailand was producing some small amount of diamonds. There's a resort town called Phuket, which they don't produce diamonds anymore, but apparently back in the day they were producing diamonds from Phuket in Thailand. And again, Brazil, South Africa, there was the great diamond hoax of 1872 where some scammers convinced a bunch of investors that there was a diamond deposit in Wyoming, so they went out there and salted the earth and convinced a bunch of people to invest a bunch of money, because they would take them out to dig up the diamonds that they had salted in the ground, and they became convinced it was a deposit, and they lost a whole bunch of money. But then Crater of Diamonds kind of fits right in this part of the timeline where we're getting this explosion of different deposits. People are looking around the world and thinking that there's possibilities for other places where there might be diamonds. Interestingly, so the diamonds were discovered in 1906, but the first kind of hints that there might be a diamond deposit here happened in 1888. So there was a geologist, Dr. John Branner from Stanford, who first identified what he called peridotite in this place, this region in Arkansas near Murfreesboro. Peridotite's not technically the correct word that we would use as in modern geology. The rock's actually a lamprifier, but they didn't have a word for it back then. So a peridotite is basically a magnesium iron-rich rock, and this is basically what a lamprifier is. So he kind of more or less got it right, at least in the terminology that was used back then. So he didn't find the diamonds when he mapped that area when he did his geological work. The diamonds were found by an illiterate hog farmer in 1906 named John Huddleston. He purchased 160 acres near Murfreesboro, Arkansas. It cost him $2,000. I read a record that he used a hog as a down payment. I heard there's another version of the story as well, but I like this one better. But John, he didn't actually come to the land to farm. He came because he had a hunch there were minerals there. A lot of what I'm taking is from a fellow named Glenn Worthington, who wrote an amazing book on Arkansas diamonds. He had this quote in there, which I'm gonna repeat as well. So, John Huddleston says he had a hunch there was gold in the diamond pipe when he bought it, but he didn't ever think about finding diamonds there. One thing that's interesting that he mentions here, which is worth pointing out, he says that the dirt. He mentioned the soil is very different from anything he'd seen before. He mentions that the dirt showed yellow under the black, green under the yellow, and blue under the green. This sounds a lot like what they saw at the Kimberley mine in South Africa. So when they were mining in Kimberley, South Africa, they found diamonds in this superficial layer, which they called yellow ground. And this was basically very, very heavily weathered kimberlite. It was very easy to get the diamonds out. And then they noticed under the yellow ground, there was blue ground. And blue ground was slightly decomposed kimberlite rock, which was slightly harder to work, but they also found diamonds in that blue ground. So this is sounding a lot like what they saw in South Africa as well. I'm not going to read through all of this necessarily, but he mentions, I just thought it was interesting, he mentions that he didn't find any gold, and he was very determined though, so he states that he went about crawling around on the ground searching for different minerals. And so he picked up some quartz and things like that. And then one day on August 8, 1906, he found a stone he hadn't seen before. And I like this part where he took it to his friend Jess in Murfreesboro. He says, of course, Jess didn't know diamond from a crystal, and all he would offer me for them was 50 cents. And it's probably a good thing that he didn't take that 50 cents, because he may have walked away from it and never tried to look for diamonds again. So Huddleston wasn't a miner. He wasn't interested really in mining, but some lawyers and businessmen from Murfreesboro and Little Rock, Arkansas, came to him, and they were very cautious at first because, of course, they knew about the great diamond hoax of 1872. So they made pretty darn sure that these were, first of all, diamonds. They sent the diamonds all across to different jewelers in major cities. They sent them to Coons in New York City, the famous jeweler, gemologist. And they confirmed there were diamonds, and then they had people come to the site and actually confirm that this was a diamond deposit, that there was a legit deposit of diamonds here. So they bought them out for $36,000. And Huddleston, in the meantime, had been finding more stones. He had a Bull Durham tobacco pouch full of diamonds, which they also bought from him for $43,000. So he did a pretty good. He got a pretty good deal off his $2,000 property. He was able to repay it I don't know if he got the hog back or not. But these lawyers and businessmen incorporated their operation as the Arkansas Diamond Company. They had $1 million of capital, offering 1,000 shares at $100 per share initially. So that's Huddleston. He's reenacting, I guess, his great discovery. He's pointing at the place in the ground where he found that first diamond. So they commissioned, so these guys were businessmen. They didn't know much about geology or mining, so they commissioned an engineer, John T. Fuller, who had been working in South Africa, and a geologist, Dr. Henry. And so they issued a report on what was going on here. This is a picture of some of the early workings. This was the processing plant. So they would have, hauled the ore up to here and processed and washed and gotten the diamonds out. So Fuller estimated that with $200,000, he could equip a mine for 6 months, recover potentially $130,000 to $600,000 worth of diamonds with 90 loads of material. I actually don't really know how much a load is. That's what was in the report, but that's all I know. And the report in 1908 indicated that they found, by that time, the Arkansas Diamond Mining Company had found 540 stones, 217 carats total. Interestingly, keep this in mind, the average size of the stones was about 0.45 carats, and the largest was 6.5 carats. That was only up to 1908. So kind of an overview. I'm not going to go too deep into the history. I'm not actually really so much of an expert in the history of the Arkansas diamonds. But I'll give kind of an overview. In the time the Arkansas Diamond Company was in production, from 1906 basically to 1932, in 1906 to 1922 they recovered 2,000 carats. 1923 in a single year, 1,313 carats. 1924, 1,274. 1925 it kind of went down a little bit to 1,616, and then 29 to 32, 4,369 carats. Now, unfortunately, this is right in the time of the Great Depression, so that basically killed their business, and that was the end of the Arkansas Diamond Mining Company. Ellen did mention the 40.23 carat stone. This was found by the Arkansas Diamond Mining Company, and they named it the Uncle Sam Diamond. It was then cut to a 12.42 carat stone. It's in the Smithsonian collection. And an interesting thing about this is that it's not named after Uncle Sam that we think about as the emblem of America. It's just the guy who found it when he was watching was named Uncle Sam. So there's not really that great of a story to that. Now, so when Huddleston bought his land, he didn't know the extent of the deposit, so he didn't actually have the full diamond-bearing ground. There was the land to the north of his property was owned by a fellow named Millard Mauney. He would not sell to the Arkansas Diamond Company. So he wanted to have his own operation going on. He actually, interestingly, opened up a feed dig operation. So he had the first feed dig operation. But he didn't keep that up for too long. He eventually started mining with a local lumberman, and then he sold a 3/4 interest to Mr. Bemis of Prescott, Arkansas, and formed the Ozark Diamond Mines Corporation. This is a photo of one of the shares that was offered in the Arkansas Diamond Mining Company. Eventually it was bought by geologists, father and son duo, Austin and Howard Miller. From 1915 to 1919, they produced 1,149 carats, 1,100.49 carats in 4,939 diamonds. Now this is a really cool photo. I like this photo. This was the original feed dig operation that they had, and I just love that. Like, it doesn't look like this today. You don't go out in your suit and tie and like your vest and dresses, mining for diamonds. I like these guys' style. It's really cool. Here's a photo of the first crude washing plant that they set up for the Ozark Diamond Mining Company. All right, so that's kind of an overview of the older history. The modern history, so the Ozark Diamond Company's plants were burned to the ground in 1919, likely due to arson, possibly competing interests in the mining organization, mining activity going on there, but they never really recovered. Again, like I said, the Arkansas Diamond Company failed during Depression years, and then kind of since 1932, nothing really happened until 1951, when the two properties were leased out by the two individual owners as a tourist attraction. And that was kind of the main activity that was going on since 1951. There were a few intermittent operations on the southern field, so that was Huddleston's old property. But there was kind of some intermittent activity, some feed dig operations going on. But then the state of Arkansas had the great idea to purchase the entire tract of land, the diamond producing area, and run it as a state park, as a feed dig state park. So it's currently the only place in the world where you can go and pay to dig your own diamonds. There's no other place like this in the world. There's a few things that make the diamonds in Arkansas really interesting and unique. One is that most diamonds occur geologically what we call on craton. So the cratons are these old, very old, thick parts of the continental crust that are basically, we believe, the earliest remnants of the continents in the earth. But the Arkansas diamond mine happens right here in the Crater Diamond State Park, so it's completely off craton. This is very unusual for a diamond deposit. The other interesting thing is that the diamonds in Arkansas occur in a lamprifier, not a kimberlite. So it's one of the few places in the world where we find diamonds not in an actual kimberlite. It's really exciting for geologists. For the layperson, a kimberlite's more or less the same thing as a lamprifier. Just slight differences in chemistry, but there's differences in the geological history of these two kinds of deposits. And it's very interesting that these diamonds in Arkansas, among all the other unique aspects of them, they occur in a non-typical volcanic eruption. So this is what the park looks like. We went there last year in May to dig our own diamonds. It looks kind of like just a farm or a field or something. So the reason for that is that, and actually I have videos in this. I don't know if this will play them, or do I need to click the?
It's not indicating that there's anything to click. Do you have it on the thumb?
No, it's just in the
within
slides.
presentation?
Yeah, there we go.
There it is.
Mind if I'll just.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And the reason for that is, so the way that they kind of operate the deposit, they bring in this guy to come in and till the fields every once in a while to kind of turn over the dirt, hopefully turn up new diamonds that you might not have gone otherwise.
How often do they do that?
I think they do it every month or every few months. I think it's kind of intermittent. The best time to go is obviously after a nice rain.
Yeah.
Here's a view of where people are working. So you get these people kind of just out in the field like John Huddleston, on their hands and knees, crawling around looking for diamonds. Typically, actually, some of the bigger diamonds are actually just found kind of laying on the ground. People just, after a rain or something, they find a diamond just laying around. But most people would go get a bunch of buckets of dirt and go up to these wash plants. They set up these wash plants on the property, so you can go with your sieves and your screens and pans and try to get the diamonds. So you get the dirt, break it down, and then try to pan out the diamonds with the other heavy minerals. One of the really cool things about the place is there's this community of people they call themselves crater heads. So it's the Crater Diamonds Park, they call themselves crater heads. These are guys who are like just absolutely obsessed with looking for diamonds in Arkansas. And they don't make, the diamonds typically are very small. You'll see some examples of this later, but they become just so obsessed, like it's in their blood, they can't handle it. They spend like all their free time looking for diamonds. So this guy's going to a much greater level of activity than most people who come like as tourists. He's dug this big hole. He's looking for a gravel layer. So like this guy knows what he's doing. He walks around with a big metal post and shoves it in the ground until he kind of hears and feels where the gravel layer is, and then he'll dig these very deep holes looking for the payload dirt. Here's another guy. I like his contraption. He's built this contraption where he can hang buckets off of himself so that it's kind of easier for him to walk around with his buckets of dirt.
These guys ever find diamonds? Did you ever ask them?
Oh yeah. They showed us, and there were several finds when we were there. You'll see one. This is Glenn Willington. He's also a crater head. So again, here's the wash plant. We were spending most of our time in the wash plant. That's me, as some of my colleagues. This is one of our pans of gravel. So we would take the dirt in the water and with these streams, and you kind of shove it and break it apart until you get rid of all the finer material, and then take these and just pan them, looking for the diamonds.
Did you find any?
We'll get to that. So here's the plan. You can see this. So this is the action. You would take the pan of your, once you get all the dirt out, and you shake it, and it concentrates the, of course, heavy minerals toward the center of the pan. It's very similar to what they do with gold panning, if you've ever been gold panning. And here's another video here. So this is what one of these pans would look like. So Don't get too excited. Those aren't diamonds. This is what it typically looks like, though. So, you know, it shows we did get a good concentration of the heavier metals, probably mostly gypsum and stuff like that in the middle there.
It's that orange yellow stone.
Some kind of iron oxide, probably.
The white is quartz.
But yeah. So this is one of the diamonds we saw when we were there. It's not even one we found. I really like this photo. This it's really I like this photo.
How do you know that one's a diamond? What do they use in the field to test that?
As you'll see in a minute, you can tell. So you can tell when in the pan, like it's kind of pretty obvious. This is typical though. Like this is maybe a few points. This is where it was very typical of the other diamonds we saw during our stay there. So like the crater heads is all the more telling that this is what they're after. This gets them like super excited when they find something like this. Yeah. So this is how you see. Can you all see the diamond?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a diamond right there.
Oh,
The luster of the diamond really shows through
Okay, yeah.
when you see it in the pan. You can tell because of the luster. So
Where is it?
So yeah, you know, you can compare it to like a grain of rice. This is another diamond. A couple more diamonds we saw. These are from somebody's collection they brought out. These were a little larger. Now, one of the really interesting things about the Arkansas diamonds is they look very different from what you typically expect for diamond rough. So if you've ever seen diamond rough, you typically expect octahedrons, right? It's like the most common shape that you see with natural diamonds, and you often see very sharp edges and maybe some resorbed surfaces. But these Arkansas diamonds often have these very irregular shapes. They're heavily resorbed, meaning that they've been etched away, they've been partially dissolved away from their original sizes or shapes. You get these nice curved, smooth surfaces. Octahedral shapes are actually quite rare, from what I've seen of the Arkansas diamonds. You do sort of see some octahedral shapes, so this kind of has a nice octahedral shape to it. Although again, it is heavily resorbed compared to what you would typically expect for a lot of other rough diamonds. Resorbed meaning that it would have been larger at some point, and then for whenever a geological event happened, it partially dissolved back, is kind of eaten away again, which gives you those nice kind of smoother edges. You get a range of colors. The colorless are more common here than in a lot of other places, but we get nice yellows, even browns, and a nice yellow. This type of shape is often very common, this kind of rice grain shape. We get these elongate, almost spindle-like diamonds. And now I'm just going to show you some pretty photos of some of the diamonds. So again, this is showing kind of a little more typical range of colors. Mostly they're kind of colorless, but yellows and browns can be found. There's a nice suite of diamonds. And again, over here's a nice octahedral shape. But again, it's got that rounded appearance to it, which is atypical from a lot of other diamond deposits. Mackerels are somewhat common. You can find mackerels oftentimes in these. So a mackerel is a twin diamond. Have you ever seen the triangular shaped diamonds? You see it in spinel as well. You get a twinning plane across the two sides of the diamond, and you get these nice mackerel shapes. Some more nice mackerels from Arkansas. Now, one of the interesting things, so if you find something, you think you found a diamond, you go up to the park ranger. There's an expert at the park. I'm asking, we currently have a device, a GIA device, to verify the diamonds. So we have one of our devices installed there that the park rangers can use to, somebody brings them up a stone that they found, and they can put it in our device and verify that it actually is a diamond. And if it is, they'll give you this certificate. They'll put your name on it, and they'll give you the size and the color of the diamond on the date. This one belongs to a fellow named David Anderson. He found over 706 diamonds at the park, including 16 over 1 carat. So that's really impressive. 16 over 1 carat is really good.
What was his method?
I'm not too sure. I never knew the fellow, but I think he just dug a lot of dirt. He just moved.
Part of the crater head.
Yeah, he just moved a lot of dirt. Yeah. Another notable diamond collector, this Dennis Tyrrell, some of his nice diamonds. He found 13 over 1 carat, around 550 total. But also nice, kind of notable diamonds found at the park. This is the Con Canary diamond found in 1977 by George Stepp. It's 4.25 carats. They left it in the rough. It's worn by the First Lady Hillary Clinton to Bill Clinton's inaugurations to kind of point out their Arkansas heritage. The Esperanza diamond, a beautiful diamond. This one was cut, so it came out at 8.52 carats in the rough, and cut to a 4.64 carat stone. Found in 2015 by Bobby Oscarson. The Amarillo Starlight diamond, found in 1975 by W.W. Johnson, 16.37 carats to a 7.54 polished. I don't have a better picture than this, sorry. This one, you may have heard about this one. This was a recent find. So this is the Aspen Brown diamond, found in September 1st, 2023, so very recent, by a 7-year-old girl, Aspen Brown, visiting on her birthday. Her parents took her here for her birthday. She found this 2.95 carat diamond. It must have been like the greatest day of her life. And it's actually interesting. So like we were there for like 2.5 days digging, and we were moving a lot of dirt. Like we were just constantly moving dirt and panning for diamonds. So I think that someone asked the question if we found any. We didn't find any while we were there. We brought back some of the concentrated gravel, the heavy minerals part separates, and back in the lab we found one diamond. But like I'm just thinking about how much work we put into finding diamonds, and we found almost nothing. And then, apparently this girl was she was taking a break. She was sitting in the shade by a bunch of rocks, and then she just saw it lying on the ground, and it's like, yeah, it's crazy.
That's insane. It almost looks rough.
No, it's not. That's natural shape, yeah. They have very unusual shapes for diamonds, and most of them will be left rough. So these are not really kind of a commoditized gemstone. Most of them will not be cut. They're more collector's items, so they typically have more value if you leave them in the rough state. And again, that part of that's because they have these very unique shapes. They're very unusual.
So how much is
symmetrical?
How much is a carat worth?
Whatever somebody can pay for that. I'm not. It's such a small market that I wouldn't even really know how to answer that question, to be honest.
I don't even know what diamonds cost.
It's in its own ball field though, so it's not even something you could compare to like the typical natural diamond market. The illusion diamond. This is interesting because so that's a dime. This was found in 2011 by Beth Gilbertson. This is the third largest diamond found since the park opened as a state park in 1971. So at 8.6 carats. But just think about that. That's the third largest diamond since the 70s. And it doesn't even cover the surface area of a dime. Another thing that makes these diamonds unique, I don't want to get into too much of the technical details, but so they're found in the lamp fire, they're found off craton, but also there's a surprising number of what we call type 2A diamonds. So these are diamonds with no nitrogen or boron, essentially no nitrogen or boron, compared to 2% globally. So this is a very unusual and interesting aspect of these diamonds as well. Some statistics, 2022 saw 162,866 visitors, so it's a very popular park. There's a lot of people there on any given day. 758 diamonds found total, so that's 117.91 carats. So the statistic I gave you earlier, I think it was the Ozark Diamond Mining Company, their average size of stones was like 0.45 carats or something. We're well below that now. These diamonds typically are found in much smaller sizes. Only 17 were found over a carat. Since 1972, they found 35,250 diamonds, totaling 7 million. Sorry, that should be 77,031 carats. And over 1,000 diamonds actually over 1 carat, which is quite a lot.
Do they let out the people that come in at certain times, or does anybody just go and?
Anybody come in? They have certain areas of the park. The entire park's not open for digging, so they kind of limit where you can dig. All right, and I promised to talk a little bit about turquoise. So, believe it or not, there is turquoise in Arkansas, which is kind of surprising. We typically think of turquoise as coming from more arid, dry regions like the American Southwest, the mines in Persia and Egypt. But there are diamonds in Arkansas, which was very unusual to us when we figured that out. They occur in the western part of the state, in Palke County. A little bit of history. So the mine was actually first discovered in the 1920s. they were searching for other precious metals, and it kind of pains me to say that, interestingly, they operated commercially as a phosphate mine in the 50s. So they were taking all this turquoise, and it's turquoise and other phosphate minerals in there, but they were taking this turquoise and presumably crushing it up and using it as fertilizer. It's really a shame. But in the 70s, they realized the potential for using this as a gemstone. So in the 70s, they opened it as a turquoise mine. The Newton Company and independent miners. It went by various names. It's now known currently as the Mona Lisa mine. One really cool thing, so in 1981 to 82, a guy named Jack Wigley discovered a 250-pound nugget. It's really big. I'll show a photo of it in a minute. The mine was reclaimed, and then in 2017, there was a new mining operation coming in, and igniting Avant Mining. They're the current owners, and they are trying to bring this back into production. They did a test trench, produced about 1,000 pounds of turquoise within a week. So there's potential there. This is this is the nugget. It's huge, and it's really interesting because so this nugget they brought to the Tucson Gem and Mineral Show in 2019, and so it kind of was a really big shock to us because we went in and we saw this. Oh, holy crap! That's a big nugget of turquoise. And then they told us it's from Arkansas. We're like, wait, what? How is this from Arkansas? We didn't even know there was a deposit of turquoise in Arkansas at that point. But the other interesting thing about that is it was mined in the 80s, so it'd been sitting around for decades, and we had no idea that this thing existed, or that Arkansas turquoise even existed for the most part.
How big is that?
There's probably about that, like that, yeah. All right, I think, oh yeah, so this is a photo of the mine. So this is the test trench they dug. Some people down in there. This is a group that came out to kind of investigate what's going on.
Is this diamonds or
Turquoise.
turquoise? Okay.
Yeah. I've got one of my colleagues here showing you what's going on here.
Today we're here at Mona Lisa Turquoise Mine in Arkansas, and here we are at the little seam of turquoise right here.
A nice little piece there.
And there's a piece you can see the blue color there. So a lot of people don't know about Arkansas turquoise, but it is definitely here. Oh wow, look at the back side. Really good color.
All right. Here's some of the material. Cut some really nice stones. Some of it's stabilized, some of it's not stabilized, some of it's treated, but there's all kinds of, all grades of the material. A lot of it's left untreated. But it's got good color, and sometimes it has really nice matrix as well. That's kind of all I had really for you guys today. I want to give a few acknowledgments. Glenn Worthington, like I said, he gave me a lot of the photos I used today, but he also produced this amazing book, Genuine Diamonds Found in Arkansas. So you can go to his website, diamondsinr.com, and get a copy. It's a really great read. Scott Fakey's, Troy Savage, Roy Basu, my old colleague from GIA, as well helped a lot with this. So with that, open up to any questions if you'll have any.
I have a question.
Yeah.
You were talking about the different soils, and you have kind of a yellow soil, and you find some in the blue soil, and you find some. Are there any difference in the characteristics of the diamonds from one soil to another?
Probably not really. You may have had maybe a higher concentration in the yellow soil because it's more weathered away. You've removed more of the other material from the original kimberlite, but the yellow ground and the blue ground would have originally been the same rock. It's just the yellow ground weathered away a little more because it was closer to the surface.
Okay.
So for the most part, the diamonds themselves were very similar. Yeah.
So, but maybe I didn't catch it, but is that crater an actual volcanic crater, or is it just?
It's a volcanic. It's a volcanic deposit. So you don't really notice so much of a crater, but it's a sort of like a pipe, like a kimberlite pipe, where you have this magma or this lava would have extruded in a volcanic eruption.
Yeah, but there's no brothers craters around in the area at all, and any more volcanic activity that they they know?
There's several pipes. They don't really express themselves like, you know, like you think of Hawaii. They don't really express themselves as that kind of like cone shape with the crater in the middle. But they were volcanic events in that you had molten rock erupting at the surface of the earth. But they don't express themselves as like a typical what you think of as like a volcanic cone necessarily.
Yeah, but I mean, there's a fracture there somewhere in the mantle or somewhere that's a weak point that's bringing up the lava, and I just wondered if, you know, had it moved on, you know,
I think the deposits are old enough and there's been enough weathering in the area that you probably don't, like, you don't notice that. I mean, I'm sure they may be able to see those features with geophysical surveys and that sort of thing, but I'm not aware of how much work has been done in that regard.
About how old is the deposit?
I think it was something like 90 or 100 million years. Yeah.
Just how big is the diamond, the biggest one?
It was 40.23 carats cut to 12 something carats.
And what is it now?
The Smithsonian.
And their diamonds are a lot less inclusions on them, they all look pretty perfectly clean.
They're often very clean, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is, so like I said, they had this type 2A diamond. That's one of the characteristics of the type 2As. They're often very clean.
Yeah.
Some of the biggest diamonds in the world are type 2As. So like the Cullinan diamond.
That's what I was wondering.
And so they're like these ones, like those are very clean, yes.
I have more of a shopping question.
Yeah.
What are their hours? Do they have like specific hours and they charge you a specific amount for all
Fairly
day?
cheap.
Yeah, it was like 10 or 15 bucks to
Yeah,
get
it's
in.
nothing. And they
You
rent
can work
you,
day.
you can get any equipment, there's all, yeah, you can get any equipment you want there, they have everything
And
ready.
is
And
there,
it's all day?
You have to pay a little more to rent the equipment, but yeah, they have equipment there.
is
I mean, it's
there a
like normal
fee?
hours.
Is there a fee?
Cheap fee, $10, $20.
10, 15 bucks or something to get in.
Yeah, we gotta go. field
Yeah.
trip.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's really fun.
Field trip?
Is that the only place in the United
school
States that
bus.
they found diamonds?
No, there's diamonds in Colorado. There's a few scattered diamonds around in California. The Natural History Museum in Los Angeles County has some on exhibit.
From around the world?
From
around the
the
United States.
United States, yeah. They have a few American diamonds. There's a few scattered all around. I mean, diamonds tend to stay around. You know, people would be preparing for gold. People would find these kinds of things.
Are diamonds the only thing they're finding in that field in Arkansas?
I think they sometimes find like some jasper or something, like an amethyst or something like that. I think there's some amethyst in the area.
Amethyst.
Yeah, there's some amethyst there.
Oh, you been, Jeff?
Yeah, I got a speck of amethyst and a sunburn.
Yeah,
Go in the fall when it's spring, huh?
I bet I came out with bloody hands after a whole day of digging.
Yeah,
And I found nothing.
yeah.
You've been too, Janet?
Yeah.
Is the turquoise mine a mine for digging as well to the public, or is that private? That was
That's
just something
private,
you were,
yeah.
okay, gotcha.
But the company Avant Mining has the material for sale. I think they go on like Instagram Live and sell stuff there.
You mentioned like kimberlite tubes, so the diamonds aren't formed in that, it's just captured in that, and then,
Yeah.
okay, when that cools down, they're just solidified in there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And does the state park incorporate the entire deposit?
Yes. They have the entire deposit and some area around it. I can't remember, 870 acres total or something like that.
Yeah.
Thank you very
All right.
much, Erin. And now Lauren is gonna do the raffle. I'll turn on, let everybody get your tickets out.
Do you want to, if anybody need any last minute tickets?